Hey there! Did you know Kroger always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Kroger app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Kroger today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. Joining me tonight as guest curator is Ben Montgomery, host of the Records Revisited podcast. Ben, thank you so much for joining me, man.
What's going on, Brian? Long time no see.
I know, it's been way too long. We haven't podcasted in, God, it feels like well over a year, and that's just a crying shame.
Well, you've been a little busy building this new podcast up, and we're always busy with ours, so I get it. I'm glad that our paths have crossed again.
Amen to that. And now I get to ask you the first time guest question.
Okay.
What does the word mixtape mean to you?
It means the 1980s and early 90s. That's what it means. I think we perfected the art of mixtapes. I had a lot of different mixtapes back in the day, and I'm sure there's a few still out there from people that I made tapes for. I will say this. I had several mixtapes that actually were broadcast in the Middle East and also in the Persian Gulf. So one of my friends served in the Navy, and we would make him these mixtapes where Wayne and I were DJs, for instance. And it was, the call letters were KRAP. It was crap radio. And we would throw on stuff that he, of course, would not be able to get in the Persian Gulf. And he would have opportunities to play DJ for the boat. And so sometimes he would just grab our mixtapes, throw it in. And so we were broadcast over the naval ships there in the Persian Gulf. So, yeah, there we go.
I was going to say, that's definitely one of the more interesting tales I've heard with mixtapes on the show. So that is amazing.
Yeah.
Tonight, our topic is spellbinding songs. I had written something on social media and you replied and you said, by the way, if you're going to do this for an episode, I want in. And here we are a short time later recording this. If someone were to ask you what a spellbinding song is to you, how would you describe that?
These are the songs that when you are driving home from work and you drive into your driveway and one of these songs is on, you don't get out of your car until it's completely done. That's the definition of a spellbinding song for me. The other, since I don't commute to work, I work from home now, it is now replaced by, if I'm working and I have these songs going on in the background and one of these songs comes on, there's not a whole lot of work that's happening during that song because I will either be singing along to it or I will be just soaking it all in. So that is the definition of a spellbinding song for me.
I agree with both those scenarios. For me, it's one of those songs where if you're driving in the car with the family and the song comes on,
okay,
inevitably at some point you get a tap on the shoulder with the words, "Are you even listening to me?" from somebody in the car.
Right.
Because you just get lost in the fact that the song is playing and the whole world just stops and you're just lost in the music.
Yeah.
It takes you over.
Totally agree with that. Yep.
Well, now that we've defined it, let's get down to business. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Ben and I will be curating the ultimate spellbinding mixtape, and we're going to use the old cassette deck approach that Ben used at KRAP. Ben, as my special guest, will begin side A with his first song choice, and then I'll add a song that I feel best follows up that choice. We'll then flip-flop choosing songs until we've mapped out 10 tracks for side A. We'll then give our mixtape a proverbial flip, and we'll map out side B, only this time I'll kick things off with Ben choosing second. Our overall goal for the episode is to craft the best spellbinding mixtape possible through only 20 songs. At the end of the show, you can take our conversation to the next level by visiting the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com to give our final mixtape a listen via the embedded playlist. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. And a few of the Patreon mixtapers chimed in with songs they would use to kick off things for tonight, and I want to give a quick shout out to a few of those. Cactus Pete chimed in saying, not sure if this fits because it's more a part of a song, but Van Halen's Dreams, the second guitar solo, then where Sammy hits the high note, and in the end, you know the part I'm talking about. I'm not going to try to hit that note right now. To the end of the synth on the song, that whole part gives me goosebumps every time. If this song comes on, I can't turn it off until it's done. Now, if you're a fan of Van Halen and you want to hear more gushing about that, check out episode 46, the Ultimate Van Halen playlist, which features Cactus Pete along with friend of the show, Eric Senich of the Van Halen News Desk. Other chime-ins, Chad Lamassa chimed in saying the first Bully song I ever heard was Feel the Same. I was mesmerized and instantly fell in love with her. She quickly became one of my favorites.
She's great.
Seeker chimed in saying the opening few bars of Remedy by the Black Crowes always gives me chills and the whole song lifts my heart. It has regularly been the opening track of my old mixtapes, CDs, or playlists. David Owens chimed in saying the Eagles' Hotel California, saying the song sucks you in from the moment you hear the opening guitar riff. And Philip Bergman chimed in saying, the first time I heard 1,000 Stars by Kathy Young and the Innocents come on the oldie station in my car, I just stared at the radio, possibly not even blinking, just listening to it. I wouldn't leave the parking lot until the song was done. I just had to listen.
Hey, Pantheon listeners. Christian Swain here, taking a break from listening to a little Shout It Out Loudcast episode. Love Tom and Zeus talking all things Kiss. Of course, I was listening to them on my new Raycon wireless earbuds. They have quickly become my go-to earbuds because of the comfort. These soft tips are the best I've ever used. And at this price, plus a Pantheon discount, Raycon is really hitting on all marks. Sound quality is great too. I really love having these 3 EQ options because I like more bass in the music, but less in my podcast. 8 hours of playtime for the battery is great as well. Surround sound, noise isolating, and awareness mode are all included. These are great earbuds. Go to buyraycon.com/Pantheon today to get 20% off your Raycom order plus free shipping. That's right. You'll get 20% off and free shipping at buyraycon.com/Pantheon. buyraycon.com/Pantheon. Hey, Pantheon listeners, Christian Swain here. Another day, another podcast I'm working on. This time, it's Famous and Gravy with Amit and Michael. I want to let you know that I loved the Factor Meals package so much that I re-upped for myself, and then I sent a package to my in-laws. Like I was with my first shipment from Factor Meals, the in-laws were as excited to try one of the prepared restaurant quality meals. Well, they got the shipment to Protein Plus meal plan and were very impressed. See, being in their 80s, anything to make the meal prep easy is a plus for them. They heated the oven per instructions and minutes later were enjoying a very delicious, nutritious, and dietitian-approved meal. One big win for me. But what really floored them was the taste. Like I told you, it's surprising how good these meals taste. Restaurant quality indeed. And like my own shipment, it really was everything Factor Meals said it would be for some seniors. No prep, no mess meals. Factor Meals are 100% ready to heat and eat. Take it from me and my in-laws. Head to factormeals.com/Pantheon50. and use the code Pantheon50 to get 50% off. That's factormeals.com/Pantheon50 and use the code Pantheon50 to get 50% off. Thank you, Factor Meals.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, Skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.
Awesome picks. Ben, just like you were saying, you're in the car, you can't get out of it. We've got the Patreon Mixtapers musical food for thought in the atmosphere. So I'm going to press the record button on our mixtape and turn the floor over to you. What song did you choose to kick off side A?
So if you're a listener of my podcast, you know that we talk about opening album tracks. And I have just one criteria for opening tracks. It needs to punch me in the face. You need to set the groundwork for what I'm going to hear for the rest of the album. One of the greatest albums of all time is Who's Next by The Who. And Baba O'Reilly kicks it off. And from the moment that you hear that synthesizer coming in, it's magical. I will say this, when I heard this when I was, 11 or 12 on the classic rock station, this was like a game changer for me. And I will say this, yes, for the longest time, I thought it was Teenage Wasteland was the name of the song. Because I did record this off of KISW in Seattle onto a mixtape until I found out years later that it was actually Baba O'Reilly. But this fits the criteria of punch me in the face. This is how you start a mixtape of these spellbinding proportions.
Well, if I was ever to do a My Weekly Mixtape episode on mistaken song titles, this would easily be side A, track 1 as well, because more times than not, I've heard people call this the incorrect title over the actual correct title. It actually shocks me when people come up and say Baba O'Reilly.
Correct.
Now, having talked about this song before on Playlist Wars and Tune Styles, I know that it appears in Time Magazine's all-time 100 songs list and Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. It was also featured by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as one of the 500 songs that shaped rock and roll, deservedly so.
Yes.
This track is the epitome of what rock and roll is. You know I'm a big fan of cover songs, and when a punk band like the Dropkick Murphys covers the song, like they did on the vinyl version of 2007's The Meanest of Times, and then you've got Pearl Jam, who has countless live versions of this song.
Right. I was just going to bring up Pearl Jam because I did get a chance. One of the times that I've seen Pearl Jam live, they did play Baba O'Reilly in the encore.
And it's epic.
It was pretty badass.
Unbelievable way to kick off the evening.
Yeah.
And now, since you're in the classic rock mode here,
let's hear it.
The opening riff of Baba O'Reilly grabs your attention. But what's cool about following Baba O'Reilly up is the fact that you can kind of take it in any direction because of the way the song ends. It keeps speeding up and speeding up and speeding up, and then it just stops. Yep. So I think as soon as the stop hits at the end of Baba O'Reilly, the beautiful acoustic guitar from 1969's Led Zeppelin II, Ramble On, starts.
Good.
Believe it or not, this was never a single in the US, which blows my mind because it's not only my favorite song on Led Zeppelin II, it very well may be my favorite Led Zeppelin song of all time.
Wow. Okay.
The way the track weaves from this folk-inspired ballad to this bluesy hard rocker so seamlessly It's absolute perfection. And then as a bass player, and I know you're one as well, how can you not love the magic that John Paul Jones is bringing to this song? It's a musical adventure that he's taking you on. If you just try to tune the rest of the song out and you just listen to his bass, it's mesmerizing.
So if you were to do a playlist or mixtape of most underrated and underappreciated musicians of all time, I think John Paul Jones would be on that list.
100%.
He is the secret ingredient for that band. I know that everybody loves Bonham. I know everybody loves Plant and Page, but man, I'm a John guy. I love that dude. What he brings to the band, he is the secret ingredient to that mix.
Could not agree more. And since I mentioned cover songs with Baba, there is one cover of Ramble On that I'll throw in here.
Uh-oh.
Believe it or not, it's Train. They have two versions of the song. They put out an entire cover of Led Zeppelin 2 called Train Does Led Zeppelin 2. Not an exciting name. And they don't take any liberties. They just play it as it was written. Now, even though Pat Monahan does a ridiculous Robert Plant, there's a version that was on the 20th anniversary edition of Drops of Jupiter, as well as on a CD single in the 90s, and it's an acoustic version. And they really bring their own flair to the song. And if you're a fan of cover songs, I think you'll be shocked if the only Train you're familiar with is Hey Soul Sister and play that song. I think you're going to be blown away by what Pat Monahan brings to Zeppelin. So anyway, coming out of Baba O'Reilly, Ramble On.
Love it. You can't go wrong with Zeppelin. I was just listening to Houses of the Holy earlier today, so I get it. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, now we're back to you to follow that up for track 3.
Yeah, let's go, since we're doing some rock to get started on this. Why don't we go to, how about Can't Hardly Wait from the Replacements?
Ooh, okay.
This is one of my all-time go-to songs. You know, and you talk about the opening guitar riffs. The opening guitar riff for Can't Hardly Wait immediately sucks me in. And Pleased to Meet Me was a game changer album for me. Came out in 87. That was an interesting year for music. I have said this multiple times that I think that 87 might be the best year of music ever. Don't at me about that. But this was a game changer album for me. And yeah, I just love this song so much.
What a great pick. It features Alex Chilton from the Box Tops and Big Star on guitar. So it's not just a clever coincidence that there's the single, the song.
No.
Alex Chilton, he plays on Can't Hardly Wait. Probably my favorite song from the Replacements. And it might be for one line of lyric. When I think of iconic lyrics, Jesus rides beside me.
Never buys any smokes.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Might be my all-time favorite Paul Westerberg lyric right there. I just love that line.
And there's so many great Paul Westerberg lyrics to choose from as well. So, yeah, one of the greatest songwriters of our generation that not enough people probably know about. So
I would say I would put him on the same underrated list as you put John Paul Jones. If you're a 90s movie fan, the name of the song might ring a bell with you for good reason.
That's true.
Because there's the movie Can't Hardly Wait, which was based on the song title, and the song is featured in the closing credits. So
correct. Yeah.
Well, we've had 3 upbeat songs so far.
You gonna switch it up?
I think I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to bring the tempo down, and I'm going to go with what I feel is probably one of the most beautiful pop rock songs ever written. And I'm going to go off of 1970s Moondance, and I'm going to go with Van Morrison's Into the Mystic. This song was originally titled Into the Misty, but after he wrote the song, he said the ethereal feeling that the song put out made him change the name to Mystic. I'm so glad he did. I don't know if I would take the song as seriously if he called it Into the Misty. But Moondance as a whole, in my opinion, is probably Van Morrison's finest hour. I mean, he's got a lot of it between Astral Week. I mean, his whole 70s output is amazing, but Moondance just is a step above all of it. And for the song itself, lyrically, it's stunning in the fact that it's so well written lyrically, as well as so well performed. Just as for an example, the section of I want to rock your gypsy soul just like in the days of old, and magnificently we will fold into the mystic. Like, I get goosebumps just saying the lyrics. When Van sings it, it just completely takes me over. And like Bob O'Reilly, this song made Rolling Stone's list of 500 greatest songs of all time. They do get it right sometimes.
I'm glad that you picked a Van Morrison tune, because one song that didn't make my list was I'll Be Your Lover Too.
Okay.
And that's from his band in the Street Choir album. I mean, I can't remember if you and I have talked about this, but during the 90s, I was all in on Van Morrison before I really knew kind of what an asshole he is. So while everybody was listening to a lot of the early 90s stuff, I was digging through the Van Morrison catalog. I bought Tupelo Honey. That was a game changer for me.
Another masterpiece.
That album is just fantastic. So here's what's funny. Everybody talks about how great Moondance is. That may have been the 4th or the 5th Van Morrison album that I bought.
Really?
Yeah. So I bought Enlightenment, which was from early 90s. I bought that album next. I bought Astral Weeks because everybody told me how great it was.
They're not wrong.
Honestly, I feel like it's a little overrated, though.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, I will take St. Dominic's Preview over that album any
That's
day.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, if you ever do a Van Morrison mixtape, invite me back. We'll go deep.
Well, what are you going to follow up Into the Mystic with?
Woo. How can you follow up Into the Mystic? How about we go with another game changer for me? Let's go Allison from Elvis Costello.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, you can't go wrong with early Elvis Costello. He's hit or miss for me since the 80s. Most of his albums will have like 4 or 5 absolute gems, and then the rest they're okay. Kind of how I feel about Neil Young albums. Probably how I feel also about Van Morrison albums since the mid-90s as well. But this song, you just have to sing along to this. It's so good. My co-host Wayne, he says that Elvis Costello is the greatest living songwriter, and I'm not sure if I totally disagree with him on that. So there you go, Allison.
And if there was ever a case to be made for why,
right
I
there,
think this is one of the ones. My Aim is True, a line from the song being the title of the album. Shocking that this song never charted for him, as it's easily one of his most beloved. I know it charted for Linda Ronstadt, and when she covers your song, does it really need any more stamp of approval than that?
No. We'll put a pin on that because we're going to talk about Linda here. Spoiler alert.
All right. Well,
okay.
Following up Elvis Costello, I think I'm going to stick with the alternative aspect that he brings to music, but bring it up a couple of decades. And I think the song that I posted about that kind of spawned this episode idea is where I want to go next.
Okay.
And I'm going to go off of one of my favorite albums of the 90s, and maybe one of my favorite albums of all time, Counting Crows, August and Everything After. And
I know where you're going.
I bet you do. But while the whole album is perfect as far as I'm concerned, there's one song that resonates with me more than any other song on the album, and that is Sullivan Street. The song, progression-wise, chord progression-wise, actually gives me nuances of a ballad form of Baba O'Reilly.
Okay.
I don't hear the song, but it gives me the vibe of that 3-chord progression. only definitely done in much more Adam Duritz style. And Maria McKee's background vocals on that song are just hauntingly undeniable.
Well, you know all the songs are about Maria, right?
Yes. But the big question is she the Maria?
She may be one of the Marias.
I was going to say, how meta would that be to have her sing on a song that's about the Maria?
Right. Exactly.
But, I mean, Adam came out and said on Song Facts, I'm going to read a quote about this one. My last girlfriend, for the first month and a half that we were going out, her mother was living with her, and her mother's very Catholic. We couldn't spend the night together, so I was constantly making these drives in the middle of the night. Very surreal, 4 a.m, falling asleep. I really believed in the relationship, but when I was writing this song, the lyrics came out, pretty soon I won't come around. It wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want it to end, but there it was. It's about the inevitability of leaving. And I think he summed that up perfectly in that tune.
Is that quote from the live recording they did the
that was from an interview posted on Song Facts.
Was it? Okay.
About the track,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you go to that live album that they did for August and everything after, he also talks about, this relationship that he knew was not going to go the distance.
Yeah, along with the CD, there's a Blu-ray of that entire concert. Yeah. Highly recommend, if you have not seen that yet, to get a copy and give it a watch. It's amazing.
Highly recommend it. Yeah, good stuff.
All right, you're up next.
All right, how do you follow Sullivan Street? I'm going to go, since we're talking about hypnotic songs, let's go Dancing Barefoot from Patti Smith. I guess it would be actually Patti Smith Group. Because it comes off of the Wave album from 1979. People may recognize it more because it was the theme song for the miniseries Daisy Jones and the Six that came out last year on Amazon Prime. This song is just hypnotic. And since I'm also unabashed 80s U2 fan, they have a really great cover of it. It was a B-side for When Love Comes to Town, and they do a pretty awesome job at that as well. I'm trying to remember who else covered it. I think Jeanette Napolitano from Concrete Blonde also covered this. I don't love it as much as Bono's version or, the original version, but this song, man, this one punches me in the face. I just love it so much.
And you know my feeling about U2 from that infamous Playlist Wars episode.
I do.
Rattle and Hum might be one of my favorite U2 albums, believe it or not. I love Desire, When Love Comes to Town, and that's such a perfect B-side. Shocked me that it didn't make the actual album, because it would have fit perfectly on Rattle and Hum.
Would have totally fit. Yeah, there were so many good B-sides from that era. Their version of Unchained Melody is pretty great as well.
Paint It Black, they did a good cover.
Yeah, they did a good cover of Paint It Black as well. I'm trying to remember all the good ones. Anyways, I'm not focused on U2 right now. So
yeah, Patti Smith, again, you mentioned Daisy Jones and the Six. I think a lot of people discovered, at least a lot of younger people, discovered the brilliance of Patti Smith through that show. And that's why I love when shows pull these older songs and kind of pick them out of obscurity and give them their moment, which is amazing. And once again, a song featured on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time.
I believe it's like in the 300s, but yeah, it's there.
So following that up, Patti Smith is an interesting voice to follow up. I'm going to lean into it and go to one of my cover songs because I'm a big fan of cover songs. Okay. And when you cover a band as iconic as the Rolling Stones, you better bring something to it to make it special. We just talked about U2's version of Paint It Black, and that's good. It's good. It's definitely good. However, the Sundays cover of Wild Horses from 1992's Blind is stunning.
One of my favorite voices of all time is Harriet Wheeler.
She has such a unique, innocent voice. It's just so perfect. And I'll just go ahead and say it. Wild Horses by the Sundays is one of those covers that I love more than the original. And don't get me wrong, I love the Rolling Stones version.
Yeah.
But the version from the Sundays is just on another level. And then 4 years later, the whole world realized its brilliance when it was used in the movie Fear with Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon.
I've never seen that.
I mean, it's by no means a masterpiece of cinema, but I remember in the 90s, it had its moment in the sun and everybody was talking about it. And once the movie was out there, they started talking about the Sunday's cover of Wild Horses within the movie. And then everyone started seeking this song out. And I'm going, where have you been?
Yeah.
So Wild Horses following up Dancing Barefoot.
Okay. Well, I was contemplating using the Sunday's Here's Where the Story Ends in the playlist, but we won't do a repeat of artists, so I'll find something else in its place. Since we're talking females covering great songs, let's go with one of my favorite singers of all time, Linda Ronstadt. How about we switch it up and make it a little bit happier, I guess? Her cover of Little Feat's Willin'.
Yeah.
So you just talked about how Harriet owns that song, Wild Horses. Linda owns so many of the songs that she has covered. I was just listening earlier today to Blue Bayou. That's her song now.
Tumblin' Dice?
Tumblin' Dice, talking about Rolling Stones.
Two women owning the Stones.
Oh, absolutely. And this will get some vitriol. I like Linda's version of Tumblin' Dice way more than I like the Rolling Stones version.
Mine's not way more, but it's definitely
way more.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, I'm a big Zevon fan. So anytime that Linda has covered any Zevon songs, I won't say that I love her versions more. Like, she takes some liberties on lyrics for like Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, which I want to hear Zevon's original lyrics for that. Mm-hmm. But Linda's the best. And I have a feeling, Brian, that because of us making this mixtape, I'm probably going to go on a Linda Ronstadt deep dive again.
And that's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that decision. No. One of the best voices of that generation, and maybe ever. I mean, she's incredible. The definitive version of Willin', Hard Stop, there's no arguing that one. And I love Little Feat. Nothing against Little Feat, but Linda just takes the song and says, I'm sorry, I'm not covering this. I'm taking it. It's becoming mine.
Yep, it's hers.
And it's unbelievable. Movie buffs, it was featured in, you know?
I don't know.
The Abyss, 1989, James Cameron movie.
Oh, I haven't seen that since 1989, so I have no idea.
This was pre-Terminator 2 James Cameron.
Yeah.
And that was still a big movie, though. I definitely remember that being big for that year.
Yeah, it was. That was a good movie.
Well, there's no way I'm topping the last 3 female voices we've put into this fold here.
Okay.
So ending aside of songs that leave you spellbound, anybody that knows me already knows what song I'm putting here.
Oh, no. Okay.
There's no question what song will close my side A of a spellbinding playlist, and it's my favorite song of all time, Paul Williams, as sung by Kermit the Frog, Rainbow Connection, from 1979's The Muppet Movie soundtrack. This is one of the first albums I ever owned. My father worked multiple jobs when I was really young, and my mom would always sit with me on the floor in the living room, and we'd put on music and listen to albums, and I always wanted to put this one on. And one of my first actual memories of life is sitting in her arm listening to this song. This song means more to me than I could ever explain. I have 2 sealed copies of the Muppet Movie album hiding and waiting for each of my daughters to get married one day, because they will be receiving the album on their wedding day, because that is the song we are dancing to, because it is the song I danced with my mom to at my wedding. And she made me promise. She's like, whatever you do, I don't think I could handle Kermit. And I said, I promise you, we won't start dancing to Kermit. I think it was my exact words. And we didn't. We started dancing to Kenny Loggins' version of the Rainbow Connection. Yeah. However, I'm an audio editor.
Yes.
So at the end of the first verse, I crossfaded the two songs. And as soon as she heard the banjo, it was water. And everybody in the room knew what was about to happen. And I just love this song so much. It puts such a smile on my face every time I hear it. I'm almost welling up just talking about it. So It's just such a timeless song. And Paul Williams is such an amazing songwriter. So I feel like that fits in with this side more than the voice of Kermit. It's the brilliance of Paul Williams' songwriting.
Yeah. And Paul, if you're listening, I'm pretty sure Brian wants you on his podcast.
I'd say that's a pretty heavy given. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks. Side A of our ultimate spellbinding songs mixtape, which kicked off with The Who's Baba O'Reilly, Led Zeppelin's Ramble On, The Replacements' Can't Hardly Wait, Van Morrison's Into the Mystic, Elvis Costello's Allison, Counting Crows' Sullivan Street, Patti Smith Group's Dancing Barefoot, Sunday's Wild Horses, Linda Ronstadt's Willin', and Paul Williams, a.k.a., or not AKA in this one, but as sung by ASA, Kermit the Frog, Rainbow Connection. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Now, Ben, before we flip things over to side B, why don't you let the listeners know a little bit more about Records Revisited?
Yeah, Records Revisited podcasts. Just go out and do all the socials. Usually I'm responding to Brian's bad takes on the socials and
bad takes
and vice versa. So yeah, we've been doing this for 5 years. I do this with my co-host and lifelong friend, Wayne Fugate. So there you go.
All right.
I'm so terrible at promoting myself these days.
You've probably said the spiel so many times.
Many times. I'm just like, whatever. Yeah.
Well, then let's just move right along. Another Muppet reference there. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
To side B, and I'm going to kick things off. I ended side A with my favorite song of all time. I'm going to start side B with my favorite artist of all time. And this is something that you and I have talked about many, many times across both of our collective shows.
Right. And I purposely didn't have in my arsenal any of this guy's songs because I knew you were going to pick something.
Yeah, there's just no way I was getting through this episode without it.
Okay, tell us what you pick.
All right, well, I think I should start by saying who this artist is because there might be some people out there that don't know, and that artist is Tom Petty, and I'm going to go off of the 2009 Live Anthology box set. I normally don't do live versions, but when he recorded Learning to Fly with Stevie Nicks in a acoustic ballad version at the 2006 Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival, it blew my friggin' mind. The original is one of my top 10 all-time favorite Petty songs, but this live version, stripping it down to its core and just this beautiful Benmont Tench piano throughout the song, and then just a stunning solo, Stevie Nicks harmonizing background vocals. You've got this beautiful picking that Mike Campbell's doing over Petty's acoustic guitar, the vocal harmonies. It brings the song down to its core, and at its core, it's just an amazing Petty song. And at the end of the song, the whole crowd is just singing the chorus over and over again. And Tom is almost doing this preacher sermon over the song. It's just such a beautiful moment. There's actually a video that I'm going to embed at the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com of the Bonnaroo live feed performance. Bonnaroo has it up on their YouTube site. It's just a beautiful, amazing performance. There are so many Tom Petty songs that leave me speechless, but this one is just on another level.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, we could talk for hours about different Petty songs. And
I was about to say, if you look up between our collective shows in the past, I think we have talked for collective hours about Tom Petty.
We have, definitely. Yeah. If I had to pick any Tom songs that leave me spellbound, Crawling Back to You would be on that list. Wildflowers. I mean, Wildflowers is just splendid and has all sorts of different songs that have left me spellbound over the years. Room at the Top is another one of those songs that would make my list.
I was teetering between this live version of Learning to Fly and then throwing a curveball and doing I Forgive It All from Mudcrutch 2.
Interesting.
When he passed and I listened to that album again, that song I was frozen. It felt like a goodbye from him. It just pulled my heart out. And every time I hear it now that he's gone, it hits just so much harder. God, I hope there's more in the vaults because I can never get enough Petty.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, my pick, I'm going to go back to the 80s. So I'm going to go Tears for Fears. Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
All right.
I know it's probably like not a real out there type of pick, but this song just gives me the feels. And I've probably legit heard this song thousands of times. And it still gives me the feels. So there you go. I don't have anything else wonderful to say other than it just gives me the feels. Like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the two different times I've seen them live and when they did this song. And it's a song that just means a lot to me. Like I remember the very first time that I heard this song on MTV and I was just mesmerized. So there you go. Tears for Fears.
1985 Songs from the Big Chair. I've had this vinyl for many, many years.
So good.
I have a little bit of PTSD from this song, though.
Uh-oh.
And there's a very good reason. You'll understand.
Okay.
Coming from radio, I worked a radio show for 4 years.
So you've heard this also thousands of times.
This was one of the bumper songs leading into the show that I heard once an hour, 4 hours a day for 4 years. Just the opening guitar part. And I loved the song, but the first 15 or 20 seconds, I'm waiting to hear a voiceover.
Well, hopefully Roland and Kurt have made some money off of lending that soundbite out. So.
That was way above my pay grade, but I am sure it happened because there were consultants involved with the show and they were looking for the 80s demographic. And when I played that song the first time, they're like, this is perfect. And I'm like, awesome. I love this song. 2.5 years into it, I'm like, why did I pick this song? Because I love the song, but I have to literally fast forward over the first 20 seconds and get to the vocals.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's mine for picking it originally. But following that up, I'm going to jump 20 years, I think. And I'm going to go with another thing where the opening guitar grabs my attention. And this song also has a little bit of a story for me. But this is an artist that I think might be a little divisive with listeners because some people, as soon as you say the name, they immediately go, oh. But hear me out. John Mayer. I actually love his music. I love him as a songwriter, and I think he's a ridiculously good guitar player. And one of the albums that made me a fan was 2005's live album, Try.
Yeah.
With the John Mayer Trio. I mean, Jesus, you're dealing with Pino Palladino and Steve friggin' Jordan.
Yeah.
That trio is just
bonkers.
It's insane. And they bring it to the songs. And the song that I chose was from that album, but believe it or not, a year later, a studio version was recorded for Continuum and not included on the album. It was only included as the B-side to the Waiting on the World to Change single, which was the first thing I bought when we were in North Carolina visiting friends. My wife and I got the CD and we heard Waiting for the World to Change, followed by Good Love Is on the Way. And when that song ended, I knew the original from Try, but the first time I heard the studio version, we were driving up Route 95 from North Carolina heading to New Jersey. I think when I played the song, I think it was when we got to double digits in a row. My wife turned to me and she said, are we going for a dozen? Is that your cutoff? I'm like, we're going for a baker's dozen. And then we pulled it out and went to something else. That recording is just so amazing. And unfortunately, it's not on streaming. So I will use the version from Try on the playlist, but I'll probably embed the studio version on the episode page as well, because it's just some of John's best songwriting. Shocked it didn't make Continuum, because that would be my high score in Records Revisited speak.
Yeah. We've done an episode on Try.
Oh, and you also did an episode on Continuum, because that was the first ever episode of Records Revisited that I heard.
There you go. There you go. All right. Yeah, we've done a couple of Mayer albums. He's not my favorite guy in the world, but I'm with you. I think he's a very underappreciated guitarist and a very underappreciated songwriter as well. So, yeah.
I'll tell you right now, if Try was his first album and not Room for Squares with Your Bodies of Wonderland, people would have seen him a whole lot differently.
I think you're right. Yeah. I don't know how to follow that.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Yeah, let's just do this. Since you went crazy with going from Linda Ronstadt to Kermit, let's go John Mayer to the Smiths.
That's a pivot.
Yeah, so let's go There Is a Light That Never Goes Out. That was a game changer for me. When I first heard this on MTV in 87, I guess it was 87, 86, 87.
I want to say 86.
But it blew me away. And I had already known the Smiths. I had a copy of Meat is Murder. So it wasn't like I had no idea who Johnny Marr and Morrissey were. But this song just ramped it up another notch for me. This is one of those songs that when I got the album and brought it home from Tower Records and I started playing it on my record player, and my co-host Wayne was living with my family for a portion of our senior year in high school. And he was like, what is this? And both of us were just spellbound. So since we're talking about the definition of spellbinding, this song is spellbinding for both of us. And it's still a song that, again, going back to the Tears for Fears thing, I've probably heard 1,000 times and I never get sick of it. Never. I love it so much.
As do a lot of people. Once again, Rolling Stones, 500 greatest songs of all time. Another choice from that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the bassist in me, but Andy Rourke's bass playing on this track has always been the driving factor to me.
Andy Rourke's great. Yeah.
I feel like his bass line truly elevates the song, and just saying that guts me that we lost him in 2023. Just an amazing player. In my humble opinion, you picked the pinnacle of the Smiths and Morrissey, so I love the fact that you chose this one.
Okay.
Meat is Murder is a great album, but this song it's just, yeah.
Yeah, next level.
100%. Yep. And I think I'm going to bring us down now a notch.
Even more than Morrissey has brought us down?
I was going to say lyrically, Morrissey brought things down.
Okay.
I'm going to bring us down musically, down to a piano.
Okay.
And lyrically, it's going to start bringing us up.
Well, I'm going to bring you down then for the next song.
The song that I chose is one of the most hauntingly beautiful songs I've ever heard in my entire life. Every time it comes on, I get instant goosebumps, a lump in my throat, and somebody starts cutting onions or something. I don't know what's happening, that there's always onions being chopped when this song plays, but
yeah.
From 2019's Daylight, I'm going to go with Grace Potter and Release.
Okay.
This song is so vulnerable, so real, and the production is so stripped back. It's literally her and a piano. It adds this element of self-reflection to the song. And this is the kind of song that you don't need a big production, because her voice and the piano portray exactly what the song is meant to portray. That being, as Grace put it, letting go of grief and pain in order to forge a better way forward. Which, for a lot of people, me included, letting go is one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
And for someone that does struggle with anxiety, she captures that struggle in this song. Even though it's based lyrically, it sounds like on a relationship. You can take the lyrics and kind of put it to whatever meaning you want. And for me, her voice, the arrangement, just everything about this song is just so friggin' perfect. It's the reason I love Grace Potter as a musician and as a songwriter. And anytime I talk to somebody and I'm like, I want to introduce you to Grace Potter, I go right to this song. Because if it doesn't stop them the way it stops me, Grace Potter might not be an artist for them.
Yeah.
So I went with Release.
Yeah, I'm not a big Grace Potter fan, and I don't know why, because she's kind of in my wheelhouse. But yeah, I need to listen to more of her. I wasn't totally familiar. I guess I kind of know this song.
There is a video for it, and
Okay.
the video is great, but there's also some live videos, again, just her and a piano.
Okay.
And I feel like the emotion in her voice and the delivery of this song, if it doesn't grab you, she might not be an artist for you.
Well, if you're going there, then let's stay in the valley. Let's go with this woman's work from Kate Bush.
Okay.
So if you weren't already depressed and sad and mopey, like this will get you there. Such a beautiful song. There is a really great cover out there also by Maxwell, and he doesn't change the gender. So he's singing it just like Kate sang it.
There were two versions of that, right? He did it on MTV Unplugged in the 90s,
Yep.
and then in the aughts, he put it on a studio album as well.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
This is on the soundtrack for She's Having a Baby, which is a John Hughes movie from 88? Terrible movie. Don't go see it. But the soundtrack is really great. Soundtrack's really great. And this song is just, yeah. And I am definitely an unapologetic Kate Bush fan. And I'm not even sure this is the pinnacle of Kate, but it's right up there. And again, if you wanted to be down there in the valley where Grace Potter is, this song will bring you there.
These two back to back work so well together. It's it's ridiculous. And I know you said you're not a big Grace Potter fan, but once we put this episode out, listen to these two songs back to back. This is a punch right here. I'm feeling this.
Yeah, I mean, and we set you up with Morrissey as well before Grace Potter. So y'all are going to need a Xanax or two after listening to this portion of the playlist.
Yeah, you aren't kidding, man. So let's try to change things up and go with a palate cleanser here.
All right, let's hear it.
I'm going to go with what I feel is one of the greatest instrumental songs ever recorded.
Okay.
And this is one of my favorite guitarists of all time. And I'm going to go with something we talked about on the show on episode 27, the ultimate Stevie Ray Vaughan playlist with Patreon mixtaper David Lee Smith. I got to go with Riviera Paradise.
Okay.
The first time I heard this song, I was driving home from college, listening to 105.5 WDHA at 11 o'clock at night. And this song started. And 7 minutes later,
I was going to say, did they play the whole dang thing?
the whole
Because it's
song,
like 8-minute song, right?
Yes, in its entirety.
Yeah.
When it was done, they played like 3 or 4 other songs that I kept listening until the DJ came back and did the talk back. And the next day I went out and bought Instep and fell in love with Stevie Ray Vaughan as an artist. I already knew the hits. I knew Crossfire. I knew The House is Rockin'. Riviera Paradise was on another level. Back to my wedding, when they asked us what kind of music do you want played during dinner, I said, Riviera Paradise, Lenny, Riviera Paradise, Lenny. In that order, just keep looping it. Because the songs they just sink in. And I can't say enough wonderful things about what he does in this song, the way he plays it. It's jazzy, it's rock, and it's blues all in one. And it's the last song on his last album on this earth. Count all the posthumous releases he's had. Yeah. This was his musical swan song, so to speak. And what an amazing one it was. So Stevie Ray Vaughan's Riviera Paradise.
I was just looking at I have the box set.
Nice.
And I was looking to see if it's on there. It's not.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge omission. So since we're talking about the songs that stop you in your tracks, let me just give a little story on Stevie Ray. when I was first married, I was an assistant manager at a Sam Goody in Spokane, Washington. We opened up the store at a brand new mall. So we had all of these people from Minneapolis that had come to unpack the semi truck to help us get the store all set up. And we all took turns picking something on the stereo or the DVD player because we had television screens all around the store. One of the guys picked a Stevie Ray Vaughan live recording. I'm trying to remember which DVD it was, but it would have been 96, 97 when it came out. We're all wheeling our stuff into this store, and I kid you not, there was like 8 or 9 of us who were unpacking the semi, and every one of us stopped. We got in the door. Stevie Ray is going on. I think it was his version of Little Wing, which is just
ridiculous.
Amazing. How do you even top Jimi Hendrix? Stevie Ray did. And all of us stopped. Like, we all got in the door and we finished watching Little Wing. And then once it was done, we all went about our business again. But that's what we're talking about. These are songs that stop you dead in your tracks because they're so good. So, all right, I'll get off my soapbox.
Soapbox away. What are you going to... Now we've taken it down, and now we've had 8 minutes to clear our mind from the onslaught of the Smiths, Grace Potter, and Kate Bush. How are we coming out of Riviera Paradise?
Yeah, let's go a little upbeat. So I'm going to... You know that I'm a big Gaslight Anthem fan, so I'm going to choose 45. That's my go-to Gaslight Anthem song. I think that gets us a little bit out of our doldrums here. It's a rocker, even though I guess it's a sad song. It's a breakup song, but just the play on words of, flip the record over. It gets me every time. And Wayne and I had the opportunity to see Gaslight Anthem last year. This was the song that they closed out the set, and it was just, that's how you do it. You leave the people wanting more, and closing your set on 45, that freaking did it. Amazing song. Anyways, Gaslight Anthem.
Going back many, many years, my wife and I lived near a club in Garwood, New Jersey.
Okay. Yeah.
And one night I saw online Brian Fallon was playing a solo show there. Sold out within seconds.
Sure. Absolutely.
However, Brian came out on stage and said, yeah, it's actually not a solo show.
Oh.
Gaslight Anthem came out and did a whole set for this tiny little place that I've played hundreds of times over the years. Love the place, love the venue. Crossroads, Garwood, New Jersey. They've had Frank Turner's gone through there even recently. It's just a great venue.
Yeah.
One of the small local New Jersey venues. And they just surprised everybody and did a Gaslight Anthem show. You picked my favorite Gaslight Anthem song from my favorite Gaslight Anthem album. So major kudos to that. Brian Fallon's a poet on this track.
Yeah.
Taking a love story and turning it into a musical metaphor. You're speaking my language, man. Like that just hits right where it needs to be. I love Handwritten all the way through. But I highly suggest if people go out to buy it or stream it, whatever you do, grab the deluxe version because there's a cool cover of Tom Petty's You Got Lucky on that one.
There is.
You knew I was going to bring that up.
Oh, yeah. Of course you were going to bring that up.
As if I needed a reason to like Gaslight Anthem more. Right. They cover Tom Petty and they do it well. Come on.
And when he does his little collaboration, The Horrible Crows, he also mixes in, and I'm trying to remember which song it was.
Never Tear Us Apart by NXS.
He does that as well, but he also does Pictures of You from The Cure.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. I haven't heard the Cure one.
That almost made the Cure's version, of course, almost made my list here, but we'll save that for the next mixtape.
All right. Well, you've got this punk thing going.
Okay.
And I've got one song left. So I'm going to see your punk, but I'm also going to see this vibe that we've kind of put together. This is a little bit more of a reflective, little downside, little more end of the night kind of driving home music. And I'm going to take a punk song that incorporates both.
Okay.
I'm going to go from 2002's Drunken Lullabies. I'm going to go with Flogging Molly, If I Ever Leave This World Alive. If there's a song that's both gut-wrenchingly heartbreaking and joyful all at the same time, I get that oxymoron makes no sense. But when you listen to the song, lyrics like, wherever I am, you'll always be more than just a memory, makes it seem very final. But later in the song, if I ever leave this world, hey, I may never leave this world, but if I ever leave this world alive, paints a different picture. This is coming from the guy that used to be the lead singer of Fastway in the 80s. And when Dave King switched from, I guess you'd call it 80s hair metal, so to speak, and he brought this Irish punk rock band out, I was very intrigued and instantly fell in love with the band. Been a big fan for many, many years. And this song always hits me. When they play it live, it just chokes me up. It's just such a perfect follow-up to 45 because you bring that punk energy at the end, but it comes after this really long build, really reflective build. And it's kind of that like encore moment. And I feel like coming out of 45, it just works really, really well. So Flogging Molly's If I Ever Leave This World Alive.
Very good. I barely know this one.
Really?
Which is really kind of surprising when I tell people that I'm a big Dropkick Murphys fan. They're like, oh, Flogging Molly too? I'm like, no.
Wow.
And I don't even know why, dude. Yeah, go back to my comments about Grace Potter. I don't even know why. So
musical blind spot or something?
Maybe. Send me a playlist that I need to indoctrinate myself on Flogging Molly. So
consider it done. I'll give you a 10-song playlist war style introduction to them.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
All right. What are you going to close out the evening with?
I think I'm going to bring us down again. Is that okay?
By all means.
It feels like If I Ever Leave This World Alive is like the main set closer, and then lead singer comes back out with him and just a guitar. So let's go Father and Son from Cat Stevens.
Ooh.
To close it out, because this is a song that has taken on some different meanings for me over the years. I am a dad. I do have 3 sons, so I've got that. And this became even more poignant for me. I lost my dad in 2019. It's okay. He was old, lived a great life, but still kind of hurts. Like Father's Day, my dad wasn't a big talker on the phone, for instance. So I always looked forward to Father's Day. You know, we would talk on Father's Day and, Christmas Day. And yeah, this is just one of those, again, I'm driving into my driveway and this song comes on, and yeah, I might have to wipe my eyes a little bit. Go back to your comments about the onions.
This is a judgment-free zone, man.
What? I'm cutting onions in my car. What? You've never done that?
Now, I'll give you this. I love the version from 1970s Tea for the Tillerman, but the 2020 re-recording he did with 72-year-old Cat Stevens mixed with 22-year-old Cat Stevens hit me on a level that was just, I wasn't expecting that. When his original voice came into that recording, and I'm like, oh my God, this is him singing with himself with 50 years of hindsight. It took the song to completely different places for me. It was like he was now the father and the son singing back and forth. And the moment where the two voices come together. Damn.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, there's a few songs that remind me of Dad. That's and I don't know if I could listen to that version.
Given what you just said, I totally understand that, man. But once again, ranked on Rolling Stone's 500 greatest songs of all time. Considering how many times I've mentioned that tonight, I think there's a future episode on the way. 20 of the best 500 Rolling Stones songs of all time.
There you go.
An extremely poignant way to close out side B, man.
This is a good mixtape, dude.
No, I don't think we're messing around on this one.
It's kind of all over the place, but this is a good mixtape.
But when you're talking to two music podcasters, who have completely different palettes of music that change from a lot of different genres and a lot of different styles of music. This actually has a theme to it. There's some variants, but I didn't bring any Poison to this mix. I didn't bring, and there's, believe it or not, hey, Something to Believe in hits me. My father's a Vietnam veteran. I could have had that in my bank, but it just didn't work here. But I think there's a definite theme going on here. And side B kicked off with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Learning to Fly, the live version from the live anthology. Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. John Mayer's Good Love Is on the Way. The Smiths' There's a Light That Never Goes Out. Grace Potter's Release. Kate Bush's This Woman's Work. Stevie Ray Vaughan's Riviera Paradise. The Gaslight Anthem's 45. Flogging Molly's If I Ever Leave This World Alive. And Cat Stevens' Father and Son. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Ben, this has been an absolute pleasure.
This has been a blast, dude. This is a cool concept, and I think, it's resonating. People are digging this. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It's always a blast.
Look forward to talking music with you again very soon, man. And remember, you could find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening. And until next time, enjoy the tunes.